Hey guys, Thomas Busby here again, and today we're going to be talking about lenses in a slightly different way. Primes versus zooms, and how sharp do you really need? Okay, before we deep dive into this conversation, let's cover off two real minimal basics. Zooms. Zooms have a variable amount of zoom to them. How wide, how close you can get, zooms shift. Primes, on the other hand, cannot change. This is a fixed 16mm. A very common one is, say, a 50mm. No zoom to it versus, say, a 16 to 55, which has zoom. Zooms versus primes. Next up, throughout a lot of this video, it's very important to bear in mind how sharp do you really need for your photos or for your content. So to give you an idea of how sharp you need, if you're just shooting 720p video, that's less than 1 megapixel worth of resolution required. Instagram, 1080p video, a 6x4 print, that's roughly 2 megapixels. Facebook, if you upload at the highest quality, comes in at about 2.4 megapixels. 4K video and an 8x10 inch print is roughly 8.5 megapixels. An 18x12 inch print is a 19.5 megapixels worth of resolution. And a 20x14 inch print is roughly 25 megapixels worth of resolution. All of this is without enlarging your prints and editing, but the reason I point this out is to give us an idea of benchmarks of what kind of resolutions we are aiming for. See, lens sharpness and resolution have a very close relationship. You can't use and print higher resolution content unless you are using a lens that's sharp enough to resolve the detail in that shot. How sharp, how high a resolution you need, how sharp of a lens you need, really depends on what kind of content you are producing. Though from a landscape photographer's perspective, there is nothing worse than having a shot that goes crazy well on social media, only to be able to not cash in on the fame of that social media, all because you either brought a bad lens or got lazy at the time of shooting, resulting in all the flaws that were hidden by social media becoming very obvious as you start to need that higher resolution content, or whether it's printing or video. And see, bigger content is good. The bigger it is, the bigger you can sell it for, the more money you can make, the less you have to justify the next purchase to yourself or to your partner. Now, I mentioned brought a bad lens or got lazy at the time of shooting for a particular reason, and I want to bring focus to those two sentences. See, after testing so many of Fujifilm's lenses, even the worst of them can still achieve stunning results if used correctly. But one of the main reasons people love to spend so much money on good glass is because good glass makes getting phenomenal shots faster and easier. So when it comes to quality, once again, how sharp do you really need? So picture this, you've got a shot, all set up, all light, all settings, all dialed in, ready to go. None of these are going to be a factor or an issue. And let's say the shot you need to capture requires a personal standard of 6 out of 10. As long as it's better than our average, we are happy. But what if we could capture an 8, a 9 or a 10 out of 10 for that shot? We would be over the moon, and this is where a really good prime lens comes into play. As for a bad prime lens, well, things get a little more iffy. I reckon a bad prime lens can get you anything from a 2 out of 10 to an 8 out of 10. It'll never blow your mind, but it can definitely be more than good enough. But sometimes a bad prime lens will still disappoint you. And how to get more control out of that swing of results really comes down to you and making sure you know your gear and its flaws. When it comes to zooms though, a bad zoom lens is a lot like a bad prime lens. Still good enough to get the job done, but more and more often it will give you below average results, until you really get in a lot of reps with that lens and start to learn and master its sweet spots and its weaknesses. Where a great zoom lens on the other hand can still blow your mind and give you a 9 out of 10 image, but I think it's pretty undeniable that no matter how good a zoom lens is, it can still have that little bit of a swing of results. See, it all comes down to physics. Prime lenses have less moving parts in them that need to align to get the perfect shot. Your lens is more than just the bit of glass you can see on the front and the back. Every time you change zoom, every time you change aperture, every time you change focus, things need to align to get a sharp shot. If you remove one of those factors, zoom, then it's so much easier for those less elements to align to hopefully get a more consistently sharper shot. So prime lenses would seem like the best way to go, right? But what this graphic doesn't account for is what happens if the shot you need to capture changes. What happens if you need to go from a close-up to a wide? What happens if you need to change from a landscape to a wildlife shot? Sometimes in fast-changing photographic environments, the world will throw you a shot you weren't expecting, and that moment will last for exactly that, a moment. And this is where zooms really start to get a bit of credit back. The wider range zoom lens covers gives you far more flexibility in what you can shoot at a moment's notice. It's not to say a good photographer won't capture this surprise image with a prime lens, but that swing and how happy you will be with your shots definitely goes more in the zoom lens's favour when life throws you a photographic surprise. So if you can really plan your content and you're not expecting any wild changes, then I think prime lenses are the way to go. But if you're shooting in situations with a constantly changing content, then I personally think zoom lenses are the way to go. So for the rest of this video, we're really going to be looking at what I feel are the best lenses from Fujifilm, for those looking at going pro and planning for the future. For those looking for the more cheaper budget options though, the theory behind this will definitely still apply to you. So when it comes to zooms, I think the 16-55 and the 50-140 really are a stunning combination. These two lenses rock. And you can either add the 8-16 or the 100-400 to either or both sides of this combination here and you're pretty well set. As far as great prime lenses go though, there's a 16mm f1.4, there's two 23mm, the two 35mm, there's now three 50 and 56mm, and then there's the 90mm. There is a lot of different prime lenses that all do a phenomenal job for professional use. Plus, if you want to step outside with the big boys, there is the 200mm f2 that likes to stand over the corner with his arms folded, knowing that he's way cooler than all the other lenses and only available to a select few. So for the rest of this video, we're mostly going to ignore the 200mm f2 as it kind of is in a whole different ballpark as far as price and size and usage goes, but it's definitely still there as an option for those that need that higher zoom prime option. Okay, so let's start out by looking at the range that is covered. So if you start looking at lenses as zooms versus primes, one thing you'll instantly notice is that zooms cover a far broader range than the prime lenses do. At the moment, getting an 8mm or a 400mm prime lens from Fujifilm just isn't an option yet. So if you need some of those more extreme ranges of things, then zooms definitely win out in this area. Okay, next up, let's have a look at aperture and low light capabilities. So the f1.4 prime lenses are 3 times brighter than the f2.8 zoom competition, and the f2 prime lenses are 2 times brighter than the f2.8 zoom competition. So as far as that low light capabilities go, the primes definitely win out in this area. And oddly enough, less light often means good light. And see, good light has far more of an impact on the quality of your shot than the sharpness of your lens. If we have a look at price, then on average, zoom lenses cost roughly 50% more than prime lenses. So for the price of 2 zoom lenses, we could get 3 prime lenses. Zoom lenses also weigh roughly 3 times more than prime lenses. So if we brought those 2 zoom lenses, they would weigh roughly twice as much as the 3 prime lenses. So to summarize these facts, zooms cover a wider range of millimeter options. 8-400mm versus 14-90mm, or 14-200mm if you want to include the 200mm f2. Zooms are better for randomly changing content and reacting to fleeting unplanned moments. Primes are 2 to 3 times brighter. You can get 3 primes for the price of 2 lenses, and those 3 primes would weigh half as much as 2 zooms. But what seems like is starting to become a theme in my videos is an indecisive conclusion. See, the best person that can answer what lens is best for you is you. And hopefully by doing as much research as possible and watching videos like this and just gathering all the facts is the best way to find out what lenses are best suited for you. But whatever lens you buy, if it collectively has good reviews and you are aware of its pros and cons before making the purchase, then the only thing that can hold you back from getting good shots is your own experience. And there's only one way to get experience. And if you're struggling to find experience, then maybe inspiration or a challenge is exactly what you need. If you like, you could try doing my 30-day challenge. I'll leave a link for it up here. Or if you want, pick one lens and take a photo every single day with it. Just that one lens for maybe a whole week, a month, or even a year, and just try and go out and shoot a 6 out of 10 shot, but just with that one lens every single day. Because more importantly than watching YouTube videos like this is to make sure you are getting out shooting. And at least as a minimum, make sure you're spending more time out there taking photos than you are inside dreaming and researching about what lens to buy next. But what do you think? Do you strictly only use prime lenses? Or do you love the Fujifilm zooms so much because they're so much sharper than your old DSLR prime lenses you used to use? There's no wrong or right answer to this, and maybe you're just like me and you love to use a mix of both. Whatever's in your kit, I'd love to hear about it down below, or if you have any questions about this video or any other video, once again, let me know down below and I'll do my best to answer them for you. If you could flick me a subscribe, it would mean the world to me and an easy way to show me a little bit of support for making content like this. As for next week, I'm not 100% sure if I'm going to get a video done. I really need a little bit more time just to get my van finished, and if I can get enough progress done on that, then I'll make a quick video to share with you guys here. But otherwise guys, thank you so much for following along, and until next time, I'll catch you next time.